Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So I'm back today with another video, this time returning to the series entitled Hard Rock / Heavy Metal Vinyl. And I'm not sure what edition, I always forget the number, but you know, this is of course where I show vinyl or records in that specific genre of hard rock, heavy metal, like in my vinyl collection. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that in the last video I showed my 70s Kiss vinyl. So the last video in this series, Hard Rock Heavy Metal Vinyl. So surprise, surprise, today I'm going to be showing my 80s Kiss vinyl. So just before we go any further, I'll let you know, some of you may know already, that I actually did do a ranking of 70s Kiss albums and 80s Kiss albums separately, because I think they're quite different, when I was going through the K section of my CD collection. So in those rankings, I described the music in quite a lot of detail. Not surprising for me. So I'm not going to duplicate that by doing the same thing today. So today I'm not going to go into as much detail about the music. This will be more of a show and tell and focusing on other aspects, because I'm showing the vinyl, focusing on things like vinyl, the artwork, the packaging, and also talking about the production and how it sounds different on vinyl, things like that. So yes, I mean, I might describe the music a little bit, I can't help myself, but yes, you know what you're in store for. So just to let you know, I don't own all of the 80s Kiss albums, but I've pretty much got my favorite ones. The other ones for me are not essential, but we'll talk about that as we go through. So before we go into 80s Kiss, I'm actually going to show you another album which I've never shown before in Kiss. So remember the last one in Hard Rock Heavy Metal Vinyl, the previous edition, I showed Kiss Love Gun. I don't own Dynasty on vinyl, but this is one I've never shown before. This is Kiss with the best of the solo albums. So yes, as you can suspect, as you can imagine, this is a compilation of the best songs from each of the 4 Kiss solo albums. So in 1978, all 4 members of Kiss simultaneously released a solo album. And yeah, they select 3 songs from each on this compilation. And I got this really for the novelty, because I'd never seen this before. Actually, I got this back in Australia in 2008. Christ, almost 20 years ago. But it's quite funny actually. At the time, I was heavily getting into Kiss, and I wasn't familiar with the solo album, so I sort of bought this as a sampler. So it served me very well actually. So just so you can get a taste of each solo album, and this heavily influenced me to prioritize which solo albums to buy. So we'll go into that. Just on the back here, they've got all of the Kiss studio albums to date. So I think this one, even though the solo albums came out in 78, Dynasty was 79, but maybe this was an add-on or something. Casablanca Records, so it is official. You'll see my copy's got a hole punch in the corner. And but it's about the music, isn't it? So it just says on the back, the best of the solo albums, and then it shows you them in order. So 3 songs from each album. So from it starts off with Paul Stanley, and the 3 songs they selected from his album were Hold Me, Touch Me, Tonight You Belong to Me, and Move On. Okay, so I think Tonight You Belong to Me and Move On are very good songs. Paul's album is pretty much a 10 out of 10. The only disagreement I have is with the selection of Hold Me, Touch Me, you know, which is a very sentimental ballad. It's funny because you might have heard me say I really love Peter's album, and that has a lot of ballads, but Hold Me, Touch Me by Paul, it's just a very sort of sappy, crappy ballad. No offense, like some of you may like it, but for me it's just not what Paul Stanley's about. But at the same time, it was his solo album, so he was trying to do something outside of Kiss, but I just don't particularly like that song. But Move On is a great song, excellent guitar solos in that, and a strong Beatles influence, I think. And Tonight You Belong to Me has a great riff in it. So yeah, 2 of the 3 Paul Stanley songs I really like on this. And of course, Paul's was said to be the most Kiss-like of the solo albums, with him being the star child, the front man and everything. Then we go on, the next selection of songs is Peter Criss, the Catman, the drummer, of course, drummer and vocalist. And the 3 songs they've chosen from his album are Don't You Let Me Down, Hooked on Rock and Roll, and I Can't Stop the Rain. I think all excellent choices. Of course, Peter's album had a strong R&B influence, like rhythm and blues influence, and was loaded with ballads. But the ballads that Peter sang, especially on his solo album, were absolutely fantastic. Like the song Don't You Let Me Down, it's one of my, I think that song's way better than Beth, in my opinion, and it really showcases the range and the subtlety in Peter's voice, especially when he sings those soft parts. So I just love that. So, and Hooked on Rock and Roll is sort of like a 50s piano rock and roll song, very catchy, very fun. And I Can't Stop the Rain is like a fantastic power ballad. By the way, in my favorite power ballads video, I completely forgot about Peter Criss's solo album, and I could have added I Can't Stop the Rain, Don't You Let Me Down, an easy thing, but I didn't. But yeah, so the three choices here for Peter's album are excellent, and they strongly influenced me to buy Peter's album first, I think. So I know Peter's sounded the most different, but I was really impressed by those songs. So Don't You Let Me Down, Hooked on Rock and Roll, and I Can't Stop the Rain, fantastic. Then on side 2, we go over to Ace Frehley's solo album. In short, I think Ace's is the best. I've heard it hundreds and hundreds of times, but yesterday I put it on once again, and I thought, damn, this album is good. It's so rock solid and heavy, especially with Anton Fig's drumming, absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, so Ace's is my favorite. So Space Ace, the spaceman, the lead guitarist, his was my favorite of the solo albums, and the songs they choose from his are New York Groove, Speeding Back to My Baby, and Rip It Out. So yeah, New York Groove was of course the big hit by Ace, and that's kind of essential. You can't leave that out of the top 3, I don't think. Like, is it necessarily in the top 3 for me? No, but I understand why they chose it. But Speeding Back to My Baby is a really good song. Rip It Out is a good song. They could have chosen any songs from Ace's album because it's brilliant. So yeah, no complaints there. And finally, at the end of side 2, we have Gene Simmons' album. So the bass player and vocalist, the demon of the band. This is interesting. Gene's is the only of the solo albums which I don't own on CD or vinyl. And I'm not sure why that is. Like, I remember when I heard his album as a whole, it didn't grab me too much. It had a very poppy influence, but just not in a good way. But I have to say the songs that they chose for this compilation are really good. So they chose Radioactive, and that's it's a rock and roll song. It's a bit happy and poppy, but it's still catchy, like it's very Kiss-like. Also Mr. Make Believe, which is interesting. That's kind of atmospheric and shows a strong Beatle influence. I think actually for that song, he got some professional singers whose job was to professionally imitate John Lennon and Paul McCartney. So the vocals on that are really good. And then the last track is Livin' in Sin, talking about his rock and roll lifestyle. And again, that could be a Kiss song. So yeah, the Gene selections are pretty good. I remember the other songs on his album I didn't dig too much. So yeah, overall a good compilation. So there's the cover showing the 4 solo album covers, track listing on the back with the previous albums, and just show you this. It comes on plain black vinyl, but of course with the Casablanca label. So this one is definitely OG. It's not some bootleg or knockoff. And it comes with this inner sheet. Yep, just showing you the 4 solo album covers and the track listing for each solo album. So that's pretty cool. I'll tell you a little tidbit about this. It also came with this poster, like a sticker poster of all 4 of these emblazoned with the Kiss logo below. But what happened was I stuck it on my fridge, and then when I went away for a long time, I unplugged the fridge, and then there was a lot of condensation. There was a puddle under my fridge, and the poster fell off and just disintegrated in the puddle. So that's a bit sad, but I had it for many, many years. So there you go. And yes, so like it's not really essential, like, because I have the solo albums, but like I said, when I bought this at the time, I didn't know where to start, so it was actually a helpful insight. I know some people might say, oh, why didn't you just listen on the internet? Because that's not very fun, is it? Fuck, what the fuck is this? Like, it never goes back in. Whenever I'm actually talking about this live, outside I can put it back in the case very easily, but yeah, I'll mess with that later. So yeah, that's the first one today, Kiss the Best of Solo Albums. Okay, so now we are launching into 80s Kiss albums. Okay, so like I said, I've spoken about all these albums before, so I'm going to focus on other things like artwork and production. So first of all, we have Unmasked from 1980, and I think this is a brilliant album to own on vinyl for various reasons. So first of all, of course, the cover is like this very colorful comic strip, and I'm a fan of comic books, and especially the color and the way they tell the story and everything. So this comic strip, it's just so cool because it's on a bigger level rather than just on a CD cover. So really nice, very fitting for vinyl, the artwork. And this was of course the album which a lot of true fans hated because it was kind of the poppy album, or as I've said before, it was sort of like a combination of power pop and hard rock. But I think the result was actually really good. Just fun, punchy, catchy, melodic songs. And just talking about, since we're talking about the vinyl in this video, I'm just going to say the production on vinyl, it sounds amazing for this album. So in general, the production for this album is very slick and polished, but you can still hear all of the elements very clearly, especially the intricate bass lines, you know, like Gene's bass on the song Easy As It Seems, you really hear that very well. And the drums are very crisp and clear, and you can even hear other elements more clearly on this vinyl version, such as the piano and keyboards on songs such as Is That You and She's So European. So it's excellent production for vinyl. And speaking about, you know, people always say, oh, vinyl production's overrated, I can just listen to the CD. Bullshit. You have to admit vinyl production is much better because, first of all, you can hear all the elements of the band more clearly, and it's like listening to a band playing live. Like you hear the bass so much better, and you hear the layering of the music, so I strongly recommend it. So for this slick, polished, punchy production, it's perfect for vinyl for this album. Everyone knows the songs, of course. They do that dumb fucked thing again where they jumble up all the song titles. Why do they do that with all vinyls? I'll never know. But yeah, the album starts off with Is That You, fantastic song. Shandy is a pretty sort of sappy ballad, and that's by default probably the worst song on the album, but I still don't mind it, it's catchy enough. Talk to Me is the ace song, very catchy and poppy, and that was a big hit in Australia. Easy As It Seems, I really like that. It's so incredibly early 1980s, and it's got a lot of synth work in it and Gene's intricate bass lines. And it's funny actually, like Sebastian from Necrophobic, I'm not sure if any of you guys know, he started a Facebook and Instagram page called Eldford, which is talking about one of his side project bands, but it actually became something else where he started doing dissertations about albums and talking about bands and eras. Like all these heavy metal topics are really interesting, and he's a huge fan of Kiss. And the way he described this album, he said, like, imagine you know, walking with an ice cream on a pier in Venice Beach in 1980, you know, checking out the babes in bikinis, something like that. But like, it's so true. It's so like early 80s California, or New York actually. It's got that just really retro sound, which I love. So what did we say? Oh yeah, Naked City. Like these songs just sound so 1980. I really like that. Tomorrow, fantastic song. Like, yeah, all of these songs have a poppy edge, but they're really good. Ace's song Two Sides of the Coin is awesome. What Makes the World Go Round, a very retro sound again. She's So European, poppy but catchy, and You're All That I Want by Gene. I used to say that song was pretty boring, but I listened to it yesterday. It's really good. So just a great pop rock album. Unmasked. And this one, the version I have comes with on a plain black vinyl, Mercury Records, so there are the labels. And I bought this one at a second-hand market in Thailand, so it doesn't actually contain anything inside. So just very bare bones, the cover and the record, but yeah, Kiss Unmasked, a great pop rock album. Okay, now, I don't own The Elder on vinyl. Actually, my mum does, but I don't. But The Elder, as I've said many times, I used to really hate that album. It has grown on me, but I'm not in a hurry to pick that one up on vinyl because, spoiler alert, it's my least favorite 80s Kiss album. Probably least favorite Kiss album, but I'm not alone in saying that, so no surprise. So we're going to skip 1981's The Elder. However, on vinyl, I do own Creatures of the Night from 1982, as I damn well should. If you checked out my ranking, you'll know that this is one of my favorite 80s Kiss albums. Hey, I don't think anyone's sitting on the edge of the seat. I'll just spoil it and tell you this is my second favorite 80s Kiss album. Very close to first, actually, you know, as I talked about in my ranking. First of all, on vinyl, it's awesome for this cover art here because I just love this iconic cover art of the four band members. I really like the use of color with the blue, and I think Gene, especially with that complex makeup and the moonlight, the theme, the demon is in his element on this album cover. So for the artwork alone, great to own on vinyl, but also for the production. Because of course the production on this album is fucking heavy with a thunderous drum sound and a thick bass tone. The guitars are razor sharp, and the drum heaviness on this album is accentuated on vinyl. Like, they just sound so clattery, and I think that's also because the overall sound is very cavernous and reverby, accentuating the dark and 80s atmosphere. But like I said, whenever you listen to something on vinyl, you hear the drums and the bass better, so it makes this album sound even heavier when you hear it on vinyl. And like the drum sound on I Love It Loud, which starts with that big solid beat, rock beat, fucking heavy on this particular version. So I love it. Yeah, but yeah, there are no bad songs on this album. It's fucking killer. This is the closest the band got to heavy metal, this album and the next album, but this had a really sort of dark atmosphere. Like the next album was sort of in a more sort of faster, thrashy way. This just had this dark 80s heavy atmosphere, and I love it. I'm not going to go through all of the songs, otherwise we'll be here all day, but let's just say some of my we'll talk about my absolute favorites to save some time. Just remember that all of them are good, but I love Keep Me Comin', track 3, just so heavy and so dark. Great vocals from Paul. Oh, I just love that song, Keep Me Comin'. And also Danger, another Paul song. And the introduction, I've said many times, the riff in that, it sounds a bit like the introduction to Alice Cooper's School's Out, but another great song. Like again, Paul's vocals are just shining on this, absolutely brilliant. Then I also really love I Love It Loud. That may be a cliche because it's like a massive hit for the band, but it's one of the first songs that really reeled me in to get me excited about this band. So that's a Gene song, an anthem to youthful rebellion and rock. I Love It Loud is great. I Still Love You, fantastic power ballad. Remember, that didn't actually quite make my power ballads list, but as I was listening to it yesterday, I was thinking maybe that should have surpassed Reason to Live. But anyway, really good song. Killer is a typical Gene song, but I love it, like a bit heavy metally and fast. And then it closes, of course, with War Machine, which is one of the heaviest songs Kiss have ever done. But yeah, the whole album is effing brilliant, and I just love it. Second favorite 80s Kiss album and second favorite Kiss album of all time, actually. So again, I got this one in Thailand, so there's not much to show you here, apart from the actual vinyl, but this is interesting. Who is the record label? I have to check that. Not a damn clue. But anyway, there's the label, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, black. Appropriate for this album because it's Creatures of the Night. So yeah, like I said, for me this was sort of the closest to proper heavy metal that Kiss got. Like some other albums in the 80s, which I will talk about, they were more like a hair metal direction, but I think this was just dark heavy metal, and it's brilliant. Excellent on vinyl because it accentuates the machine gun drum sound and the sheer heaviness. So Creatures of the Night from 1982. Okay, up next, of course I own this one on vinyl, Lick It Up from 1983. Sorry, all together now, say it with me, you know what I say. This is my favorite Kiss album of all time, and in fact my favorite rock album of all time. Absolutely brilliant. This is another album where the band sounded close to, so Creatures of the Night was like heavy metal. This was going almost in a speed and thrash metal direction, musically at least. Like, and what I like about it is on vinyl, the production is just really solid and heavy with crunch, so much better than the CD version. There's a very thick guitar and bass tone, and the drums have a hard-hitting punch to them. So the production, when you hear it on vinyl, it's perfect for a mostly fast and aggressive album with almost speed and thrash metal elements. And what I'm talking about there is the rhythm guitar riffs, those like downstroke riffs, and also the guitar leads and solos, which are blistering from Vinnie the Shredder Vincent with his fresh and fierce guitar technique. So Vinnie co-wrote, how many songs? Yeah, 8 out of the 10 songs on this album. So he really helped the band to make a comeback no matter what they say. But even the 2 songs that Gene wrote without Vinnie are awesome as well. So I absolutely love every single track on this album. Of course, famous for the hit Lick It Up, which is great. And then they have a few sort of like atmospheric rockers like Exciter and A Million to One, which are both fantastic, got a really sort of 80s atmosphere to them. And then you've got those like strutting, crunching songs like Not for the Innocent, Young and Wasted. You've probably heard me say my 2 favorite songs from this are Gimme More and Fits Like a Glove, because they're the fastest songs, but not for the sheer sake of speed, but like they're just so energetic, fresh and exciting, and some thrash and speed metal riffing and brilliant guitar solos in those. In fact, Fits Like a Glove by Gene, that's probably my favorite 80s Kiss song. Yeah, I think I mentioned that when Scott from No Solution asked me, what's your favorite Kiss song? And I said, yeah, Fits Like a Glove, at least regarding the 80s in any way. But yeah, All Hell's Breaking Loose is another great anthemic heavy track. Dance All Over Your Face, such a typical Gene song, and it closes with And on the Eighth Day, which is a solid rocker. Not one of my favorites on the album, but still very good. So every song on this is fantastic. Like this is the closest, again, so like for metal fans who say they don't like Kiss, these would be the two albums to check out because they're the closest to heavy metal, proper heavy metal or thrash metal that Kiss ever got, without them ever actually being heavy metal. So that's what's interesting. It's still like very rock in sentiment. This was, of course, the album where the band took the makeup off, so that's the debut there. Gene sticking his tongue out to show that it's still him. And this one I bought in Australia, so I'm not sure if it may contain something. Ah, yes. Okay. So again, fuck you. Sorry, everything's sliding off here. Yeah, on the Casablanca record labels, plain black vinyl, of course. Yeah, so like with these two albums, Creatures of the Night and Lick It Up, on vinyl, they just sound phenomenal because they're so heavy metal-y, and as a result the production just really accentuates their heaviness. So you just have the inner sheet here with all of the lyrics. By the way, I really like the lyrics on this album. Like, of course they're sleazy, but there's just some clever double entendres in there, especially on Gimme More and Fits Like a Glove. So musically brilliant and lyrically funny. Of course, like what was that? Yeah, the line I always like from Gimme More is "Love is sweet, so insane. Come on, lick my candy cane." Yeah, and that's what I think was interesting about Kiss is like, yeah, even though the lyrics were raunchy and some could say maybe a bit sexist, it's funny, like they were never misogynistic. They just sort of put it in a way, expressed it in a way where it was with double entendres to make it sound clever and funny. For example, on Animalize, on Burn Bitch Burn, Gene says, "I want to put my log in your fireplace." You know, stuff like that. So it's just, there's a level of humor about it. But yeah, Lick It Up, absolutely fantastic, and glad to have this on vinyl. This is kind of a beaten up copy, but yeah, I'd wholeheartedly recommend getting this on vinyl. So Lick It Up from 1983. Okay, up next I have Asylum from 1985. So just pause there. They did have an album in between, which is Animalize from 1984. I don't own that on vinyl yet. However, if I do see it at a reasonable price, I will pick that up because that's my fourth favorite 80s Kiss album. And this is actually my third favorite. So Asylum from 1985. Pretty cool album to have for the on vinyl for the cover art, even though a lot of people said this was god-awful, but it's colorful. And here you have the band on the back with that all-time eccentric flamboyant clothing, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it's also cool because it's the character of this album. So yeah, this is my third favorite, and I'm going to talk about the music in a minute, but the production on vinyl sounds excellent. It's very thick and heavy once again, with once again a thunderous drum sound. This is accentuated by a lot of Eric's drum fills and solos and Gene's intricate bass lines. So yeah, Eric really shines on this album because he does a lot of these fills and like solo drum beats and everything, and they sound absolutely thunderous. But this album is just powerhouse. Like, it's solid hard rock, heavy metal. You could say, like, there's a lot of the songs are crunching, but they're also like melodic and catchy. Like King of the Mountain, fantastic Paul song. Any Way You Slice It, an underrated Gene song. Who Wants to Be Lonely was a big hit, but that was very anthemic, very 80s, love it. Trial by Fire, I remember Bruce Kulick, who was the lead guitarist on this album, he said that song has a kind of AC/DC feeling. I know what he means, like maybe a happy version of AC/DC, but when I was listening to this yesterday, I still really enjoyed it. I'm Alive is another powerhouse song by Paul. Love's a Deadly Weapon, good, a lot of blistering guitar solos, and that the big hit, of course, from this was Tears Are Falling, which is by default my least favorite song on the album. It's like kind of sappy, ballady song. It's not a bad song. Like when I first heard that song, I loved it, but then I heard the rest of the album and went, wow, it's even better. Secretly Cruel is an underrated Gene song, like Gene crunching along again. Radar for Love is Paul's tip of the hat to Led Zeppelin's Black Dog, but so good. And All Night, you know, so the final song, which was another single from this album, that's incredibly catchy as well. So like, yeah, this is maybe not as pure heavy metal as Creatures of the Night and Lick It Up, It's got more of a like an element of pop in there, but it's still very heavy and crunching, and has a lot of aggressive parts with the blistering guitar solos and everything. So this is a really underrated album. I've heard people say, "Oh, Asylum was a terrible album." Bullshit! It's absolutely fantastic. Like as I said, this is my third favorite Kiss 80s Kiss album after Lick It Up and Creatures of the Night. So don't miss out on this one. Just show you that again. Quite funny. And I bought this one in Australia for $9.95 18 years ago. So that was a great price even for back then. So I think that's why this one is in such good condition as well. Mercury record labels on plain black vinyl for this one. And this one actually came with an insert, yes. So all of the lyrics with black and white pictures of members of the band. Yep, so very happy to have this one. Like so as I said, for me it goes Lick It Up at number 1, Creatures of the Night number 2, Asylum at number 3, and Animalize is number 4. So I don't own that yet, as I said, but if I see it at a decent price, I will pick it up. Yeah. So there you have it. 1985's Asylum, great production for vinyl. Okay, now I actually do own the next album, which is Crazy Nights from 1987. This album is interesting. You might have heard me say, well, I'll just tell you, in my 1980s Kiss ranking, this ranks towards the bottom, like it's my second least favorite, but that's not to say it's bad. There are just those other albums that I like more. This was the band's pop album, you could say. So it was produced by, what was the guy's name? Surname Neverson or something, who had produced Ozzy's Shot in the Dark. You know, that album, was it No Rest for the Wicked? But you know, he made a hit with Ozzy, so this band decided, based on Shot in the Dark, to get him to produce the album. So as a result, it does have a very sort of polished, poppy sound, and that's not necessarily bad in itself. Like, good production, I don't mind. The only thing is, on this one, the production can sound a little bit tinny, but not because of the music. I think it's because of the actual songs, like the way the songs go, because there are a lot of light and poppy songs on this album, which I don't particularly like very much. So, this is a hit and miss album for me, but I will say, when it hits, it's fantastic. There are some really good songs. So I'll save you time. Instead of mentioning the songs I don't like, I'll say the ones I really like. I have to admit, Bang Bang You, a lot of people say that's a cheesy song, but I really like it, just mid-paced and catchy. No 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 is an interesting song written by Gene because it's very sort of experimental rhythm-wise and with the guitar leads. Hell or High Water is another Gene song, really good. So I'm mentioning the songs I like. Yeah, Reason to Live, fantastic power ballad, and as you may have heard me say, that belongs in my top 14 power ballads of all time. Good Girl Gone Bad is okay. Turn on the Night is a little bit cheesy, but it's still good. But you might have heard me say my favorite song on the album is the final song, Thief in the Night, because that is just a dark, heavy metal song, and it actually shows when the band plays heavy with this production. The production sounds fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant, like just so dark and atmospheric, and Bruce Kulick's guitar solo in that is absolutely shredding, dark, blistering, and evil. It's such a brilliant, haunting solo. I love that, Thief in the Night. But there are other songs I don't like very much on this, like Crazy Crazy Nights, I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, My Way. I said that was one of the worst Kiss songs ever. When Your Walls Come Down doesn't really grab me. Yeah, so you see what I mean, like about half of this album I really love, but the other half just doesn't do much for me. But still, not a bad album, certainly worth owning, and I'm glad I do own this. It's worth owning for the good songs alone. In fact, for just Thief in the Night alone, it would be worth owning this on vinyl, because yeah, the production is very polished, but when the band's playing heavy, it just sounds awesome. So kind of cool, iconic cover art with this one. And then showing the band members on the back there. So this was the same lineup as ever since Animalize, Asylum, which was Paul, Gene, Bruce, and Eric. Yep. And although I got this one at a market in Thailand, it came with the insert, which is cool. So, yep, Vertigo record labels this time on plain black vinyl. And I'm glad to say with all of these, even though some of the covers are a bit beaten up, the actual vinyl themselves are really in really good nick. They play well. So here's a very 80s picture of the band, and of course all of the lyrics. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, I don't hate this album, but it's just a very hit and miss album for me, because there are some songs I love, but about half the songs I don't like that much, so that's why it comes second last in the 80s Kiss ranking for me. But still a good album, worth it for those good songs. So Kiss Crazy Nights from 1987. And of course the final album they released the final 80s album they released was Hot in the Shade in 1989. I've never seen that on vinyl. It's, again, I don't rate that one too highly in the 80s list. I rank it 5th actually. Like, it's not a bad album, but it's a case where it seems like it was a bunch of demos thrown together and they could have trimmed the fat a bit, but I still really like some stuff on there. But in any event, I don't own Hot in the Shade on vinyl. So there you have it, guys. That's my 80s vinyl Kiss collection, plus the best of the solo albums. So even though I have taken some time today, I don't think I've gone into too much detail with the music. If you think I have, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, 6 vinyls and focusing mostly on artwork and production and things like that. So hope you enjoyed it. It seems hard to please people these days. Like when I was surprised, I thought I would lose a lot of subscribers when I talked about my favorite power ballads. I didn't actually, to my amazement. And then when I released the Medieval Demon one, as usual, I lost a subscriber. I don't know why people get upset easily, but I really like that band and I really enjoyed making that video. But hey, sometimes it's a tough crowd. So as long as I keep enjoying making the videos, I will continue to do so. So of course, I have loads of ideas remaining in the pipeline. So I actually have a list, so there's more stuff coming. Probably go back to the extreme metal next time, or a collection update. Anyway, I will let you know. And that's a cue for me to go because the battery's going out. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.